my name is Mark. I'm a palliative nurse in the community. Palliative is typically put under an umbrella term that most people associate with dying. My job fundamentally is pain and symptom management. Symptoms come up, for example, with people that smoke and they have COPD or they have lung cancer or whatever ailments that apply to them. I provide specific care to manage certain symptoms, but the actual definition for palliative is more along the lines of a life-limiting illness. Without treatment, yes, you can potentially die, but with treatment, you can extend life and still have a good, healthy lifestyle. For example, there's patients that have diagnosis with cancer, something that can be treated in many cases, and they go under that umbrella of palliative where I provide care. They get their chemo treatment, their cancers go into remission, and they get better. The opposite case is when there is no cure and they often die. One thing that a lot of people don't know is an opioid drug, hydromorphone. It's often demonized by public health and even pharmaceutical companies that it's an addictive drug, and it often actually scares my patients and it's detrimental to their treatment. For me, I either have a prescription to administer drugs subcutaneously or IV to manage shortness of breath. It's often associated with pain management, but off-label hydromorphone actually manages people's breathing issues. So that's where that whole fine line of dependence comes into play, because they have to take that medication in order for them to not experience this breathing problem. When you have a patient that takes, for example, 10 milligrams of hydromorphone by mouth, and their ailment is now gone, the correct way is to taper it down, kind of reduce the dosage incrementally over a period of time until they don't need it anymore. Some patients don't follow that regimen and they continue to take it without tapering it down, and then it becomes an addiction. So there is that fine line difference, and it's something that I'm faced with on a daily basis as like a challenge to explain it to people, especially with new patients that have never taken any strong medications like this. Hi there, it's Mark the nurse. Whenever I give him a call, hi there, it's Mark the nurse, blah, blah, blah. I gotta set up a time, and I'm not just Mark, it's Mark the nurse. There's no other title for me aside from that, which is kind of interesting. I'm such a hypocrite, that same example that I'm taught, but I go off after I talk to them and go and have a smoke. To kind of speak plainly, when you take a drag of a cigarette, because it hardlines through your lungs and the chemicals quickly get to your brain, the nicotine receptors essentially, it releases the dopamine, the feelings of euphoria, the feelings of calmness, and your brain essentially creates more of those because now it wants it, it desires it. So every time you stop smoking, any cessation at all, the minute you stop smoking, there's no longer those nicotine receptors hardlining to your brain. Eventually your brain starves for it and then it demands it, so it creates this craving. It's telling you, you need this cigarette. So when you put it in the sense of addiction and addictive properties, your body is hardwired to desire that once you are in the loop of having it. To get off of it, you have to starve it and basically get through a threshold of the brain basically no longer producing these receptors and demanding satisfaction out of having the nicotine in your system. It's your body actually fighting you to try to get it. It'll make you feel like shit. You'll feel depressed. You'll feel that withdrawal. You'll feel tired. You'll want something to fix it, and your body's trying to kind of hint to you, hey, go have a smoke. That's what'll make everything better. To start with, I've been smoking my entire life. I'm 33. I've been around it. My dad was a smoker, so I've always been subjected to secondhand smoke. You know, it was only after starting school that I developed that stigma that smoking's not good for you. But very early on, it was the norm, right? Like, you're a product of your environment in that sense, that He always smoked in the house, so for me, it's just a normal thing. When I started school, I learned, smoking's not good for you, and this is what'll happen, and it's a lot of money out the door. And as time went on, even throughout elementary school, I even told my dad, smoking's bad for you. He eventually quit, and the sad part is I took up the habit after he quit. The first cigarette I had in its entirety, I was probably about 11 or 12. I got really, really sick. In fact, I actually had to take a couple of days off of school. I don't know, I ended up just smoking because of certain things. My environment was kind of a product of that. My sisters smoke, my brother smokes, I smoke. You can say it's nurture that versus nature, but I think it's a little bit of both. I have that addictive trait. So you put something in front of me that I might like, and I'm gonna fucking consume the shit out of it. I've never had a patient give me advice about smoking. I have had one, though, that has brought it up that I did smoke. And that was the first time that ever happened where it caught me off guard, where they're like, "You smoke?" And I'm like, "Huh." And it was one of those moments where it's like, shit, you can smell it on me. I know you can smell it on me. I had a cigarette 2 hours ago thinking I'm in the clear, but, they have these super senses when they're, in their own stool, and that's a foreign smell to them. So for them, caught them off guard, but they also would tell it's your own right. So I'm not gonna bash you. There's shit everywhere. My house stinks. So you coming in to smell like cigarettes, it's not the worst of the worst. That's one challenge I've dealt with, especially in my field and my particular brand of nursing, is that I'm a visiting nurse, so I'm always on the road. Luckily enough, I don't smoke in my car, so that's a way to keep me from smoking. But as soon as I know I'm going to a place where, okay, I got time to air out, like a retirement home, for example, I will park, and that's the first thing I do. It's not even to review my patient. I literally park, get out the car, put on a coat to kind of catch the smell and keep it off of me, smoke my smoke, put hand sanitizer, run to the washroom or have like baby wipes on me and wipe the smoke off, and then mouthwash. Like there's a whole routine to make sure I don't smell like cigarettes when I go to visit a patient, which is just absurd, the great lengths I would go to make sure I don't smell like cigarettes. This is how nonsensical it is and how addicted I am to cigarettes, is that it's not going to deter me so much as it's going to reinforce the need to make sure I don't smell like cigarettes or give off the scent of cigarettes. So I go through great lengths to not exhibit that symptom or that smell that they can associate with, oh, you're a smoker. Like the easy thing to do, well, I wouldn't say the easy thing, but the simple thing to do would be just don't smoke while you're working. But instead I go through this whole routine of, okay, put on this coat, zip it up all the way to the top so nothing can seep through my clothes, smoke the smoke, keep the cigarette above my head so it doesn't so the smoke doesn't hit your face and shit. I blow it up above me, like stupid things that I'm sure if someone watched me have a cigarette, like watch me in my routine of trying not to smell like cigarette, they'd be like, this dude is fucked. He needs help. Like I literally stand outside with a cigarette over my head. And I just take a hit, and I'll blow it as far away from me as possible. And I still smell like it. It's like I'm just fooling myself. The way it works out is, if we're going based on statistics right now, people that are actively going through programs of quitting, there is a 50% likelihood that you can quit once and for all if you go cold turkey. And I think it's about 33% for people that are trying to taper or they're trying to wean off the nicotine. So those people that try to go with the cold turkey, it's plain and simple. You just stop and try to cope. One thing that has actually been it kind of opened my eyes a little bit, seeing it through a different lens, is someone can tell you right now, like, look, No one's telling you to stop smoking, and no one's telling you to smoke. It's purely self-will and choice. But your active will and determination to not get it is what builds that character and what gives you that driving force to not go and get it. It's not the fact that you can't have it. It's available. It's accessible to you. It's your ability to abstain from it. The people that are trying to wean off, it's, say, for example, you're a 10 cigarette a day smoker, you try to do 7 in a day or 5 in a day, and you slowly try to wean it down to 1 a day. Same goes with people that go on the patch, or even the vape pens. Vapes go 5, 3, and 1 in concentration for nicotine. Those people often bounce back into smoking because they're not truly getting rid of it. They're trying to starve the receptors while still receiving the medication. So when you're trying to compare that to something like a pain medication, that's different in the sense that they actually need the pain medication for the pain that they have, and then you're trying to wean off the dependence of it. Whereas smoking is a self-infliction. You actively choose to buy or get these cigarettes and smoke them. There's not too much therapeutic in the sense of relieving your anxiety or stress or just something to fuck off and do. The therapeutic effects of it are limited to that. That's basically it. Anything else, it's just damaging your body. It's damaging the cilia. It's damaging your lungs' capacity to take in and exchange oxygen. It's damaging your brain. It's damaging your blood cells. It just has a myriad of bad things, bad effects that hit your body every time you have a cigarette. For anything that you're trying to overcome or anything that you're actively doing, positive reinforcement and affirmation for even the smallest of milestones are incredibly good for you. It has such a positive and rippling effect. It's just like when you see someone that's trying to get healthy at the gym. All it takes is one positive compliment to fucking gas the person up to be like, yo, I'm gonna grind even harder. Equally as much, it takes one negative compliment to make you spiral down, and it's how you react to it, right? Like, if you were in your position right now, and someone says, "Oh man, how many days has it been?" X amount of days. Fantastic. Keep going. You're doing great. That'll give that positive reinforcement that you're doing something right. But then I could be the fucking negative Nancy and be like, come on. It's only been 10 days. Let's have a smoke. Let's go. It's no problem. No sweat. It's like that little demon on your shoulder that's egging you on, this peer pressure of like, hey, let's just go for one. It's what's the worst that can happen? You're doing great anyways. And that usually doesn't bode well, and you end up spiraling. When I've kicked the habit of smoking for extended periods of time, once I've gotten out of it, I felt great. But it was always a catalyst for change when something stressful, or going to a bar that's not necessarily stressful, but it's being in that moment, in that environment, and when someone offers it to you, as much as you want to be like, no, I'm stronger than that, I'm good. That's not good. I don't know. You're gonna take your chances. Like, oh, it's not gonna happen to me. That's just random, but it happens to millions of people every day. It's ridiculous. I mean, I've been putting off quitting my entire life. I've been trying to quit since I was 16. Success in some cases where I've gone for six months or so without smoking and feeling great, but then I'd go out to a bar and then it spirals downhill from there. All it takes is one drag to pull me back in. But as far as trying to quit, right now my goals of quitting are when I start a family. Because I don't want to subject my kids to the experiences I've had in my environment growing up. I want to give them the best opportunity to stay away from drugs.